I lived in a college house with 8 of my very close friends. Chaos and parties, and it was really a fun place to live for 3 years. So one night there's a knock at the door.
Why did you start Insomnia Cookies in college?
So a warm cookie was comforting. It was nostalgic, felt like home, but I was delivering it till 2 o'clock in the morning, right? So there was this like incredible late night party vibe in my mind. Like Insomnia, when it started, there was very little success in the cookie retail industry. Like Insomnia set out to recreate the category.
Now, based on all your experiences, all your successes, all of your failures, if you're speaking to a high school or college student right now, what would you tell them to best prepare them to be a successful entrepreneur? Welcome back to 30 Years in 30 Minutes. I'm your host, Michael Oved, and we've got a great episode for you today. With that, it is my pleasure to introduce to you today's guest. Seth Berkowitz is the founder and CEO of Insomnia Cookies, a chain of bakeries in the United States that specializes in delivering warm cookies, baked goods, and ice cream. Beloved by college students across the country and true to its name by staying open until 3 a.m., Insomnia Cookies was founded in 2003 when Seth was a junior at the University of Pennsylvania. Since then, he has scaled the company to over 250 locations with annual revenue over $300 million. Seth is also the founder of Beacon, a consumer and tech-focused investment firm, as well as Financial Lease, a bookkeeping and financial management firm. Seth, thank you again for joining us today.
It's my pleasure. Thanks so much for having me.
Of course, let's start from the beginning with your childhood. What experiences in your childhood and what about your upbringing piqued your interest in entrepreneurship?
That's a good question. So I grew up in Rockland County, New York, about 45 minutes outside of Manhattan. My dad was a CFO of a textile firm for a while, textile and garment industry firm for a while. And I remember when I was little, I went to his warehouse. I used to work with him every summer in between, whatever. I think even like second grade, third grade, early on in my life. And he ran the warehouse. I was the CFO. He ran the warehouse. And I just remember feeling like something about this seems pretty special. Having the opportunity to work so closely with people in a leadership capacity. Definitely was intrigued by that. But then my parents also, they just pushed me to craft my own path. That was like a big push for them as parents and role models for me. When I was young, I used to sell baseball cards and I used to write a sports magazine, very big sports guy, always trying to find a way to be enterprising.
And what skills did you develop in your childhood, either through selling baseball cards or otherwise, that helped guide you when you started Insomnia Cookies at such a young age?
I don't know if I developed many skills that early on that contributed to Insomnia's success, but I'll tell you, the Insomnia journey is a lot about passion and it's a lot about perseverance. And I think elements of my childhood pushed me. And but it's just what they did. I'm the youngest of 3. I'm 6 years younger than my brother and not 8 years younger than my oldest brother. And there's something about being the youngest. It was almost the point where my parents were kind of done being parents and they had this younger kid. And they left me quite a bit on my own and created a lot of independence and autonomy. But I'll say there was definitely, for me growing up, this sense of being really passionate, getting pushed to be really passionate about things and really trying to fight through challenges. It's just what I was taught. And I think that really set me up for a lot of success in business.
So what is the key to pushing through the challenges and persevering?
You got to kind of enjoy them. Honestly, look at them as more a puzzle than a challenge, something to solve. Sometimes there's things that you can't get through. You can't crack the code, for sure. But it doesn't mean you can't pivot. It doesn't mean that you can't jump over it. You can't have somebody help you jump over it. And I typically look at a challenge as an opportunity. I think some of it is 20-year journey, lots of struggles in the early days. I feel like I was kind of forged from challenge, honestly, as a business leader. And so I revel in it. That's just the nature of how I behave.
And does that come with experiencing all those failures, or is there something you can do when you're younger to develop that resilience?
I think most of my resilience came out of experience. I think it's kind of a general idea. Resilience typically comes from not knowing what's right in front of you and really surprising you. Trying to find a mentor, trying to find people who work with people who've seen what you haven't seen yet, helping you avoid those pitfalls is way better than having to learn how to be overly resilient. But it's a mindset. It really is. Anyone can shift their mindset away from not necessarily even victimization, but this notion that things that happen to me are insurmountable.
And how do you shift that mindset?
To some extent, I think it's pushing yourself and getting a win, pushing yourself and actually succeeding against the backdrop of challenge. And then once you've accomplished that, starting to use that to build momentum towards building actually a capability, right? Like you can be really resilient because you're delusional, which I think I was in the early days of Insomnia. I think you can think that you're a visionary even though you're not. And it's really going to come down to rolling up your sleeves and fighting. But then when you start to get some of those wins, I think it becomes a lot easier to establish that as part of your culture.
Because what a lot of people do is they put themselves in a box. They limit themselves in their mind, and the barriers are only there because they built them in their mind. So for people who put up those obstacles that don't exist, how do you overcome that?
They're the ones who put them up, right? I mean, are you asking yourself tough questions? Are you really curious? Like, are you digging a level deeper? You have the box, okay? You put a box on and it's blocking you. But in your mind, can you think about why? Can you push yourself to really to be more curious, to go a level deeper, to look to others, to create a broader debate, to have a real conversation, and to help shape your thoughts? Because a box is a moment in time, right? It's not a mindset. It's not permanent. It's a moment. And a lot of times in this world, you see it all around us. People get stuck in a moment and act like it's gospel, but it's not. It's a moment. And what changes thought process, what changes the way that we move forward is others and conversation and debate, and then improvement, and then growth, and maybe even happiness.
Now, moving on to Insomnia Cookies, why did you start Insomnia Cookies in college?
So I'll take you back to the time frame, right? So it's 2002, 2003 time frame. And at Penn, there was a huge business culture. The Wharton School really drives a lot of finance conversation, a lot of people going into finance. Just wasn't for me. I knew it was something I didn't want to do. And I had no idea what was next. Like, I truly didn't. It's an amazing thing about college. I'm sure you're experiencing it now. It's such a crossroads in such an amazing way. There's this feeling of, I'm this adult, right? Like, I get to do what I want. I'm up all hours of the night. You know, it's so much independence, but then some level of, I just left home. Maybe there's homesickness. And generally, I felt like this big crossroads. And so Insomnia for me actually pulled at that kind of moment, that kind of emotional feeling I was having of kind of feel like I'm still a kid. I'm trying to determine what my next steps are. And so a warm cookie was comforting. It was nostalgic, right? It felt like home. My mom used to bake. It kind of felt like home, but I was delivering it till 2 o'clock in the morning, right? So there was this like incredible late night party vibe in my mind, like this, we call it own the night now. It's this kind of a mantra that we live by. And it hit at those crossroads. It was this kind of this incredible late night atmosphere business, but it was also really comforting and nostalgic. And so it spoke to what I emotionally felt as a college student. And so that kind of spoke to me, and it made it clear I wanted to start something that where I was, that was something that I could really get excited about.
I totally understand what you're saying about the crossroads, because right now I'm in college. I actually feel like the world is at my fingertips. I feel like I ought to make the most of every opportunity. Very, very difficult feat. For you, you did that when you started Insomnia Cookies. You took the road not taken. How do you know if the road not taken that you're traveling on is truly the right road?
You don't. You do not know. And I use the word like it's diluted. It's kind of a big piece of the puzzle, right? You have to convince yourself it's the right path. And so I'm a very resolute person. Like, I dated somebody in college. We're married. We have 4 children. I knew it within a week of us getting together. I knew it, right? Like, I'm incredibly passionate about everything that I do, and I'm very resolute to a fault. I always try to work on this to be a little bit more methodical and plotting, because I can be a little bit stuck. It happens. The rigidity shows up. Like, there is an element to it where you have to just believe and have resolve and just say, like, I see something that others don't. And that's entrepreneurship, right? By the way, that's what it is. It's seeing something that other people didn't believe could exist and going after it, and then trying to shape and mold society to agree with you. Not so easy.
I 100% agree with you. Obsession is a critical part of entrepreneurship. What did it take other than that obsessiveness in your mindset to get Insomnia Cookies off the ground and truly to grow it from you running around at 2 a.m. delivering cookies to the behemoth that is today?
So I think there were 2 critical pieces. One is, and I've started other businesses. Some of them struggled, some of them have worked. Insomnia has really been core for 20 years, and it's where still the CEO and have been since day one. And so I focus on it 99% of my time. But I can get excited about a business when the consumer expresses a certain amount of joy and love for what you're selling them, right? Like that's not so easy to spark that connection and that emotion. Insomnia had that right away. Like I would go to the door and I deliver it to somebody and they would just smile and they'd be excited. And they'd be like, oh my God, I didn't know this was a thing. And that was enough for me to take the plunge. Now, what enabled me to take the plunge though, was being a college student, right? Like having minimal amounts of expenses at the time. My parents were still supporting me and helping me out very much, which was incredibly appreciated. My friends were splitting the electrical bill with me that they didn't even think too much about, went up a little bit when Insomnia launched, right? So one, having this consumer reaction that was really authentic and organic, and also having a little bit of a less risky environment in which to launch it gave me a lot of confidence that it was worth a real and serious try.
And part of that was because you chose a great niche where your target audience was college students. How did you pick that niche?
I lived in a college house with 8 of my very close friends. And it was like ridiculous, kind of a fraternity-esque house. There's 9 of us. It was chaos and parties. And it was really a fun place it really was a fun place to live for 3 years on slightly off campus. And we would order food all hours of the night. We would order constantly. And there were like 5 options, by the way, for delivery. There was almost nothing. There was a couple of pizza concepts, Chinese restaurant. There's a hoagie's place. And then we'd all walk to Wawa, which was like 3 blocks away, to just get whatever small indulgence we wanted. And so one night there's a knock at the door and we were playing a video game. We played Madden and Halo at the time. I don't remember which one it was. Inevitably, I had lost because that was typically how it went. And I opened the door and it was the same delivery guy from one of the concepts that had been there like 2 or 3 times that evening. And I grabbed this pie of pizza and I slam it on the table as my friends are playing Halo. And they're like, what? I said, listen, I keep answering this door and the same guy is on the other side of the door. Like, there's got to be something else, right? And they're like, you know what to do? Like, walk to Wawa. And it was like 20 degrees and I couldn't get myself to move. And I was like, you know, it would be amazing if something sweet and wonderful was delivered and something differentiated and unique. And they're like, it's 1:00 in the morning in February of like 2002. Like, that's probably not happening. And I said, I'm going to make it happen. They said, sure you are. But inevitably I did.
Like I said before, you picked a particular niche and everything you've done as a company has been centered around that niche. How important do you think picking a good niche is for the success of a company and the growth of a brand?
I mean, niche is really interesting because like it's a captive group of insomniac. We call them insomniacs, right? It's a captive group, late night, really committed to the community, loves the elements I described, right? The nostalgia, the comfort, and also the party elements of it. Like they love the convenience and the speed, and they're like plugged into social media and digital in a way that's very shareable and special. But it also has narrowness to it in some ways. So you got to be great when you pick a narrow lane. You need to be great to that community, and you can't deviate from it too much until you establish a bigger stronghold on it. So, you know, we were focused solely college, really, for many, many years. We opened up a New York store, but it went to NYU, right? We're delivering to NYU. It took until 2011 to open up really our first city store. And at that point, we had many locations. And the thought process was, well, people have graduated. They know our brand. They love our brand. They're in their 20s. So they're probably also out late at night. They're not so far removed from college. Let's try a city store. But it starts in college. It's always been rooted in college because that's where that emotional connection stems from. Like it really goes back to that minute I was describing to you of, I feel like I'm still a kid to some extent, but I really am ready to be an adult. I'm kind of at this inflection point and a warm cookie really hits the spot. And then if you can create that moment for the insomniac and hold that connection, it can be a lifelong connection. And so we then have to really foster that. We really need to engage with our insomniacs through their life cycle. And that keeps going, right? I'm now 20 years past college, 4 kids. The suburbs are not such a big departure. I live in New York City. I plan on continuing to do so, but many of my friends have moved out of town. That is kind of the next frontier for us to some extent to try and make sure that we're maintaining that relationship with those that have allowed us to be successful.
And you guys did a really great job with that. Like I was telling before the interview, I have Insomnia Cookies every night and the workers there know my name.
I really appreciate that. I mean, that's The college community, it's such a loyal and wonderful group. And, our job, it's the part that I still find the hardest is you want to exceed expectations all the time, right? I appreciate you going every day, but like, I want you to be wowed. And the bigger you get, right, the more you have to invest in that. You need to invest in the wow. And COVID kind of changed people's expectations for a little bit. And I think those expectations are starting to rise again. And so we're pushing a lot into service, making sure that your daily cookie is special.
I do want to get to that wow factor and your ability to continue delivering on that wow factor. But just to finish up the conversation about niche, because I think that's very important. How would you advise other people to identify specific niche markets in the untapped market like you did?
My experience is a bit organic. Like I was a college student serving a college population, having access to college housing. Like it was a very logical step for me and the time in my life. I think if somebody's trying to go after it that way, like that's great, right? If you can think through where are you in the world, where's a community that you can really tackle in a very specific way, and then push your brand around that, really focus your efforts on engaging that community, that can be super powerful. I mean, some of the best brands are really focused. Harley Davidson and Yeti, like they spend all of their time speaking to a very small group of people, but the passion and the connection is insane. It is so, so strong. And they are two exceptionally powerful brands, right? They do incredibly well because they make sure they are great. And whatever they do really well connects very closely to that community. Don't deviate from it. So I think there's a lot of power in doing that. If you can find a community that you can rally on behalf of, that they can rally with you. But it's really important that when you do pick that lane, you stay really tight and narrow to it.
But how do you pick a lane? Because there's so many untapped markets out there.
We got to bring a product to the market, right? There's a lot of untapped markets, but I mean, connecting product and market isn't so straightforward and so easy. I mean, I could have done not cookies. I could have done hot pretzels, right? There's a lot of different things. Trying to understand the target market and what you're going after and what they care about, maybe doing that research and that work to recognize what the need state is, and then determine what does expectation look like, and then exceed it. And then exceed it again and again and again and again while continuing to bet on that community. I think that's probably the best way to go after that.
So going back to what we were saying before about the wow factor and still delivering on that 20 years after launching your company, how do you do that? How do you maintain the wow factor for all of your customers, whether it's their first time in your store, their 100th time in the store, their 1,000th time in the store?
I think it comes down to knowing your insomniac. Like we start from, do we understand what they care about? Well, what's deeply important to them in the experience, right? Like you can deliver lots of cool things to people slowly. You can deliver lots of cool things to people that aren't necessarily something that they're interested in at that moment. And so we try to stay very close, understanding what the community is comprised of, what the need states are. Like there's, you can order cookies for lots of different reasons. Warm cookies do make a lot of moments better. It's fun when you want a quick snack, right? You describe walking into the store, or when you're with friends, or in a gifting occasion, right? Or a holiday. Like there's lots of different ways to use insomnia. For us, it's understanding how the community wants to use it, establishing a very clear baseline, and then pushing service and your internal teams to making sure that execution is above that line. Like basically, like what is the line of wow, right? And are you above it? Every single time you deliver a cookie to someone's house, every single time they walk into the store, and then measure it and then be obsessive about it.
And as the company grows, it becomes more and more difficult to do that. Now, customer satisfaction doesn't entirely rest and end with you. It depends on the people you hire, the stores you've built. How do you pick the right people to hire, build the right culture within the organization? How do you continue delivering on that wow factor when there's so many more elements of your company that are required to do that?
I mean, the nice thing about being a little bit narrow as a brand, having like that kind of late night insomniac feel, is that the internal community of insomniacs, our employee base, it's pretty natural. Like, are you a late night type of a person, right? Are you comfortable working late hours? Are you energized by that? A lot of people are, by the way. A lot of people are just late night people. And so we try to focus our energy on finding those who are aligned to the hours, but also aligned to our values, right? Insomnia has 6 values. It's our internal verbiage, but effectively it comes down to, are you super passionate about what we do? Are you incredibly creative? Are you flexible and nimble? Are you diligent? Are you authentic and original? And are you fun? And so we measure everything through those values, or those are the behaviors behind the values. We measure everything through kind of that lens. And it allows us to understand, are we one? is the community one. And we try to make sure the external customer and the internal employee are not so different. And so that the community is all, we call everyone insomniacs. And so that we're trying to make sure that it feels as if everyone is one.
I really do marvel at the fact that you started this company in college, literally 20 years old, not knowing much, without having built anything tremendous before. How did you learn the business? How did you scale the business? What advice do you have for college students, for people looking to start a business with no work experience?
So, I've learned a lot in the last 20 years. The single biggest thing I share with anyone is try to find a mentor early. Like really, I fought through 8 years of losses and turmoil and financial crises and all sorts of different moments in time that I think about a lot because it helped move the business along, but were really painful. And I didn't know how to get through them. I just used as much energy as I had and I pushed through. There were things I did that were ridiculous. I used to build stores myself and deliver cookies 5 hours 5 hours to stores in upstate New York and Maryland and Champaign, Illinois. I just traveled the country fighting through it. You learn a lot from experience, but there's a cheat code, right? Others have done this before. You don't have to figure things out on your own. And it's super critical that you find those mentors. I found them along the way slowly. And kind of the biggest evolution I've had as a business leader has been since we partnered with Krispy Kreme back in 2018. Their leadership team really gave me a lot of room to run, but also truly showed me the way. They really were very helpful in that regard.
So for someone without work experience, the best advice you'd give them is find mentors?
To do is important also, but I think if you're going to really run something from scratch and build a business alongside others, you can bring in great talent if you have the capacity to do so. And that's going to really help you. Your talent can raise you up. That's really a critical piece. I didn't have that early on. I just didn't have the capital to do it. I brought in some great people, but just not a lot of them. And we all were wearing a million hats at once. In that situation, in the real early days of a startup, having somebody to guide you and be shoulder to shoulder is a very helpful piece of the puzzle if you can get it.
How do you find those mentors?
Seek them out. People will ping me and ask for time all the time. I'll get emails daily. I'm interested in entrepreneurship. Can we chat? And I try to say yes as much as I can. I think that's the way to do it. Find somebody that it potentially inspires you, somebody who does something that you find it interesting, and try to reach out to others who might know them. I think that is the best possible way.
And how do you turn that informal conversation into a formal mentorship?
I think you ask them, say, I'm looking for mentorship. How do you feel about us chatting every month? Give me 20 minutes. Give me a half hour. And make sure you're walking away from that first meeting with the second meeting on the calendar. That's pretty important. Something I've learned in business over the last 20 years or so is that a lot of meetings end without a next steps. A lot of people walk away that was great. And then everybody goes off to their next thing. Really important to walk away in the last 3 minutes, be what did we just all say? And what are we doing next? So we're clear on the path forward. A lot of people use that. It's an interesting dynamic to watch.
You mentioned that when you were first starting off, you didn't have access to a lot of capital. How did you build? How did you scale? How did you market the company, which inevitably required a tremendous investment without access to that type of capital?
So I did raise some capital, but you see fundraising now, at least in the last 5 years, right? Companies that are just an idea or have developed some level of revenue are raising money at, valuations that are just excessive and don't make a ton of sense to me. But back in 2000, 2003, that's just not the way it worked. And people did invest in food on a venture basis. The food businesses were not something that you'd find venture capital going into because typically it costs money to build a store. And venture capital likes going into asset-light businesses. So I raised through angels and some family offices, raised a modest amount of money by today's standards. And that helped keep us in business. But my focus, and I think it came out of doing the first baking, the first mixing the product for the first delivery, was always operation focused. That's service focused, to make sure that delivering the warm product was going to create brand advocacy, that if we did something really spectacular, people would talk about it and they would tell others. And then the retail stores created even further brand engagement. And that was the virtuous cycle we needed to get the business really off the ground.
And what was the marketing strategy?
It's funny because we used to use these words, warm, delicious, delivered. We'd write it on the wall, which is not a marketing strategy. It's kind of, we call it a brand essence, right? The keys of insomnia, the pillars of insomnia are the warm, amazing product, the deliciousness of the cookies, and just the delivery component, right? That it's a convenient experience. But that's how we would talk about it way back when, right? It was just, this is new. We need to educate you on warm cookies till 2:00 in the morning. For the first couple of years, everyone said like, does anyone need this? Like, does anyone need it? And I said, I'm telling you, if you try it and it's warm, it's going to blow your mind. Like, I don't know. I just don't know if anyone needs it. And it took many years to convince people that cookies are better warm. Sometimes they're better late at night, but generally for us, it was the educational component. We were talking about what the brand was built on, that those pillars, and we put them in front of our customers as much as possible. Now, it was kind of early days social media, so there wasn't tons of social media marketing. So there was a lot of product like we would do a lot of guerrilla style marketing back in the day. We'd hand out lots of cookies. We would hand out a flyer. We'd hand out menus. We put something in people's hands. And that kind of those were the touch points we needed to at least generate enough demand to keep the business afloat.
Do you think that even today, in the era of social media, that undergoing that guerrilla type marketing is still beneficial?
It's hard to scale. Up until probably 5 years ago, it's still a big piece of the puzzle. We had about 150-ish stores. We talked about guerrilla marketing quite a bit. And we had, now we have college athletes. We sponsor athletes and they serve as, they're like our spokespeople to some extent on college campuses. And that's an amazing, amazing benefit to have. But it's a little bit different than literally going street to street, handing out cookies and handing out menus. But we did that as recently as 5 years ago. It was just, it felt like it was hard to measure the impact once we reached a certain level of scale. It started to feel like maybe we're putting the dollars to the wrong spot and we should focus our energies on putting more into social media where this is getting in front of people.
Now, you're the CEO of a company generating revenues upwards of $300 million with over 250 locations. You're also the founder of Beacon, a consumer and tech-focused investment firm, and Financial Ease, a bookkeeping and financial management firm. What lessons did you learn running Insomnia that you took to your later ventures?
Love growth in general, right? Like love building things. It's always been a passion of mine. Goes without saying, being an entrepreneur. But I felt like at certain points in Insomnia, there's like these plateau moments. I think I've gotten that out of my head. But over the years, I felt like there were these plateauing moments. And every time there was one, I'd start a business. It's like 2013, we kind of plateaued. Business is doing really well. I started this company called Fly Cleaners. It was this big laundry delivery logistics business in New York. That was crazy growth story to start. That was awesome. And out of that, I started getting very excited about the idea of being more involved in early day startup. And I think some of that goes back to, they're throwing the word nostalgia around quite a bit today. I really like the idea of the beginning stages. Like I felt like there was something about that was nostalgic for me. I wanted to be involved in things from the beginning. So I started investing in early stage businesses. And while working with early stage businesses, I recognized that they have a very critical need for chief financial officers and outsourced financial support that I struggled with when Fly Cleaners was in its early days. And I certainly saw my portfolio company struggling with. So I worked with a friend of mine and we founded this business, Financial Ease, to support early stage. It was kind of was a way to take me back. I think these founding businesses were functionally like a time machine for me.
Now, based on all your experiences, all your successes, all of your failures, if you're speaking to a high school or college student right now, what would you tell them to best prepare them to be a successful entrepreneur?
Just go for it, right? I mean, I think there's not much more to it. Like you can take some accounting classes. I think that's very helpful. I found my accounting classes to be incredibly helpful in college. I think speaking, as we talked a little bit about today, right? Speaking to others who've done to get a feel for their experience and preparing you for what is going to be pretty challenging in all likelihood. But I don't think anything really prepares you for it. I think it has to be an obsession. It has to be a passion. And if you want it, go get it.
Is there anything that aspiring entrepreneurs in college can do during the semester other than take accounting classes to best prepare them for success?
I think reading and gaining knowledge about business is a pretty important thing to do. I think there's a lot to learn from others that have done. I've read countless business books. I continue to do so. Other people's stories could be a blueprint for your own. I highly recommend being research oriented, but it's got a balance with I'm thoughtful and I'm really making sure I get all these pieces right, but also this willingness to just take the leap.
Now onto the rapid fire questions. What is your favorite flavor cookie?
So I've been eating our double chocolate chunk cookie since 2004. And I never once deviated from that. By the way, I try every cookie that we make and every limited time offering product. I give it a shot. But if you put a box in front of me of our classic deluxe mini cookies cake, I will always go to double chocolate. That happened exactly 1 hour and 5 minutes ago.
What book do you recommend?
I mean, for managerial purposes, there's a book called 5 Dysfunctions of a Team by Patrick Lencioni. That is, for me, it's about how to design a trusted, focused, accountable team. It's really eye-opening, especially from my seat. Somebody gave that to me about 7 or 8 years ago, and it totally reshaped the way I thought about a leadership team. It was really, really, really powerful. Fiction, I've been reading this book by Hernan Diaz called Trust that I just absolutely love. It's a very different type of writing style than I'm used to, and it's great. His other books are also really good.
And what is your biggest regret?
I try to say I don't have any regrets, but that's not true. So let's give you one. So Insomnia, when it started in 2002, 2003-ish time, right? There was very little success in the cookie retail industry, right? Like Insomnia set out to recreate the category, right? We wanted to do late night cookies, and it was a way that people hadn't consumed cookies before, and warm was a different kind of form factor. But those who were in business, Mrs. Fields, Great American Cookie, they were not doing well. And so they, and actually, I think 2 of them went bankrupt within 18 months of Insomnia starting. And so I'm looking around saying to myself, I can't do a retail business, right? Like retail doesn't work. We're going to do kind of like a ghost kitchen style. It's going to be delivery only, and it's going to be in the back of other businesses. And I ended up licensing a frozen yogurt shop at one point. Like there was elements to it where there was a fear of being a retailer, when in reality, retail has been a huge piece of our puzzle for a very, very long time. It creates incredible engagement. The late night hours are so important. And it took until 5 years later to recognize that. Those were 5 unfortunate lost years. And had we opened up retail stores in college campuses on the main streets, it would have been great because it proved that out very, very soon thereafter. So I really do regret that fear.
What is a quote that you live by?
So it's like a company mantra. So I'll give you this one. As I mentioned overnight, but like one thing that we talk about our category creating spirit that Insomnia shaped the way cookies could be eaten late night. And what we were intending to do was just be innovative, right? Be an innovative version of how everyone else was eating cookies. And so we use the term imagine what's possible. And so like we just opened our headquarters in Philly. Imagine What's Possible is the name, it's the Imagine What's Possible Center. And the push really is, can we iterate? Can we innovate? Can we reinvent everything that we do to exceed those expectations, right? To be more than the wow yesterday, right? Be a bigger one today. And so for me, like I say Imagine What's Possible many times a day, probably to the point where my team is frustrated. But those are words that I hold deep in my heart.
And the last question is, what has been the key to your success?
I'm not sure. I mean, I think there's been a lot of luck. There's been a lot of perseverance. We talked about that quite a bit today. But, in 2010, 11, 12, I can't even remember exactly when, like the iPhone was a huge, huge springboard for success, right? We were an on-demand late night business when on-demand late night was meaningless for a very, very long time. And then the app infrastructure was built and convenience changed overnight, and we were perfectly positioned for success. And that's the next 12 years have been wonderful. So, there's a lot of luck in that. That was really great. But I think at the end of the day, and the passion for Insomnia, I really believed in what I was trying to build. I really loved the community. I really loved the way the business was differentiated from the rest of the industry. And I think that ultimately was why we ended up where we are today.
That sounds amazing. This was a wonderful interview. Thank you so much, Seth, for joining us today. It's been a pleasure.
It was my absolute pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for listening to 30 Years in 30 Minutes. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and let us know in the comments if there's anyone else you want to hear from.